Hey guys, it's Jeremy from the tech team here at FLYMOTION. We had a customer call recently and they asked us to do a setup and configuration on their new M300 RTK combo. We figured we'd take some time to do a couple quick videos on best practices for initial activation and firmware updates for the M300 Smart Controller Enterprise, the M300 RTK system itself, and then the BS60 battery station with the two TB60s inside. Once you receive your Matrice 300 RTK system, the order in which you update your equipment is important. We recommend that you start with the Smart Controller Enterprise as it is the most critical piece in this process. All right, so we've gone ahead and connected the USB cable from the controller to the computer. You're gonna be using a USB-A to USB-A cable for this. What you're gonna notice is if you have Assistant 2 open, it's not going to recognize the Smart Controller Enterprise right off the bat. You're gonna have to go into the Smart Controller Enterprise, swipe down the top menu, and on the top right, you're gonna see a USB option. It's white, you're gonna have to press it to make it blue, which turns on the data transfer port. It's going to be recognized by the computer. It's going to ask you what you want to use it to. You can leave it as the charges device, hit close. We're going to jump over to the Assistant 2 and you're immediately going to see RC Enterprise has popped up on the Assistant. We're going to go ahead and click inside. Now it's going to load our firmware. It's going to tell us what our current version is and what the latest version is. As you can see, my remote controller is already on the current version. We will go ahead and put in the description the firmware that you get from the manufacturer. But right now, when you update it the first time, you should be at 0.0108. I can go ahead and refresh my firmware just to show you what that looks like. You're going to go ahead and click upgrade. Refresh is going to make sure that I'm connected to the internet, that the device is powered on. I'm going to go ahead and click start update. This process is going to be the same as you've seen for the aircraft, as you've seen for Matrice series in the past. It's going to download, it's going to upload firmware. Our RC has finished updating. I'm going to go ahead and hit back up here in the top right, and I'm going to refresh this page just to make sure that my current firmware and the latest firmware are the exact same number. And that's how you update the RC through Assistant 2 for Matrice. Now that the RC is done, we're going to go ahead and walk you through how to set up and activate the BS60 battery station along with the TB60s. So right out of the box, we're going to go ahead, set up the station, put my two batteries in, plug it into the wall. I'm gonna press the power button, and what I'm gonna notice first is that it doesn't actually begin charging my batteries. This can usually be cause for alarm. There's a little yellow exclamation mark here that'll tell us that the voltage is too low. It's actually not. What it needs is to be activated. So this is a new feature for the new aircraft, and even our old TB50 battery station didn't need this kind of a thing. But it's a pretty simple process. We're gonna go over it real quick. To update and activate the BS60, we're gonna have to come over here to our Smart Controller Enterprise. So Smart Controller Enterprise has a port on the top, USB port, that we're gonna click in the menu and activate, and we're gonna connect it to a USB-C port over here. Once we do that, we're gonna go into the Pilot app, and the battery station is gonna pop up just like any normal firmware would. At the top, it's gonna say battery case update firmware. You're gonna click inside and you're gonna apply the firmware. So we're gonna go ahead and jump over to Pilot, and we're gonna show you how that works. All right, so as you can see here, we're in the main menu of the Smart Controller Enterprise. I've got my USB cord plugged from the Smart Controller into the BS60 station. And when you do the drop-down menu here, you have to enable the USB button in the top right of the menu. This allows for data transfer between the battery station and the controller. So after that's enabled, we're gonna go ahead and click into Pilot. And once we get into Pilot, you should see a firmware update pop, just like any other firmware update, once it checks the version number at the top. So we're in Pilot, and after the firmware pops up, here we have to activate our device. We are going to go ahead and click automatically activate, just makes it a little bit easier for our customer. So it's going to be activated, and then we're going to go ahead and click at the top here, the battery case new firmware available. It's going to give you some information here, the updated battery firmware. So this will also update batteries, and then it'll update the firmware for the case as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my batteries back in and click update all. once it reads my batteries. So we can see on the left there, I've got 2 batteries at 20%. So as you can see, the update pushed successfully. Gonna go ahead and accept that here. See, the percentage on my batteries has gone up, so my batteries are actually charging now, and all firmware is up to date. So I'll go back to the main menu of Pilot here. We're gonna go ahead and cut back to the BS60 station. I just wanna show you that my batteries are successfully charging now, and I don't have the low voltage warning. All right, so like I said, we're back here at the BS60 battery station. As you can see, the 2 TB60s are charging successfully. That's indicated by the 2 green lights here. They're getting about 50% done. And as you can see, we do not have the yellow exclamation mark, low voltage warning any longer. Simple activation, simple firmware update through the smart controller, and we're up and running. Now that you've got the Smart Controller Enterprise and the BS60 battery station updated, we're gonna go ahead and show you how to do the updates on the Matrice 300 RTK using a desktop or a laptop running Assistant 2 for Matrice. We're gonna go ahead and jump over to the computer method. I'll show you how to connect the M300 to Assistant 2 using your laptop or your desktop computer. And then we'll show you what that process looks like inside of Assistant 2, show you what the firmware versions are, maybe how to refresh the firmware, if you're maybe having issues updating. All right, so before we do the update, we wanted to quickly show you how to connect the aircraft to your computer. On my laptop, I do have DJI Assistant 2 from Matrice already pulled up. I'm gonna take my USB-C to USB-A cord, plug the USB-A side right into it, and then I'm gonna come over here to the aircraft. So on the top of the aircraft, there's 2 flaps. On the right side, if the bird is facing you, you have a PSDK male USB-C port. This is not gonna be the port we're gonna use. We're gonna go ahead and open up the other flap. And on this flap, you're gonna have 2 ports. Another male USB-C for the OSDK, which again is not gonna be the port we're gonna use. Within this flap, there's a tiny little cap here, which is rather hard to get off. And this is gonna be covering the port that we want to use. Once you finally get it off, you're gonna go ahead and take your USB-C cord and you're gonna plug it right inside. Now I had the M300 on beforehand. You can do that, that's fine. I don't have the controller connected. And then right over here on DJI Assistant 2, you're gonna see that M300 has populated. Here we are, we're looking at DJI Assistant 2 from Matrice. Current version as of this filming is version 2.0.11. This can be found on DJI's site. We'll go ahead and we'll put a link in the description for to the download of this as well. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the USB cable that's plugged into the drone. We have the drone on, the remote controller is off, and we're gonna go ahead and plug it into our laptop. It's gonna go ahead and recognize the device, and then you're gonna see the animation go, and we have our Matrice 300 RTK. We're gonna click inside. We'll have a number of options here. It's gonna update the no-fly database. You can do it now, you can do it later, it's up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and click ignore. We're gonna hit the refresh button over here on the firmware update, and then that's gonna pull up the database of firmware versions. You can see my current version is this, and the latest version is this. Shows you the release date, and then if you would like, you can hit upgrade. It's gonna make sure the computer is connected to the internet, device is powered on, USB connection. We're gonna go ahead and start the update. Now this method is also possible on Mac. There are potential issues with Catalina OS. We're gonna go ahead and put a file in the description about that as well. There is an official workaround until they get a fix for the for Assistant itself. But don't worry, Mac users, you can still update your drone this way. So if you notice that your firmware version, the current version, is not the same as the latest version, and you go ahead and upgrade, it's gonna do a normal process. Download the firmware version, it's gonna upload it, and then it's gonna start updating, which is what we're seeing right now. Don't worry if your aircraft disconnects. Generally, it'll restart a couple times during a firmware update. You're not gonna lose anything. It's just normal process. And there we go, 100%, update complete. We're gonna go ahead and hit back. See my current firmware version matches the latest version. If maybe this caused me some issues or it didn't take correctly, I could always click refresh. If I'm worried about maybe this not being the latest version, I can refresh the database there just to make sure. So there you have it. That's the way to update the M300 RTK through DJI Assistant 2 for Matrice. All right, that's gonna wrap up our video on the initial activation and firmware updates for your Matrice 300 RTK combo kit. We went ahead and showed you how to connect and update the Smart Controller Enterprise and the Matrice 300 through Assistant 2 for Matrice 300, and how to connect the controller to the battery station to do your initial activation, firmware updates for this, and the TV60s inside. We really hope you found this video informative. If you did, make sure to like the video below and subscribe for more content.